Hello, and thank you for joining me. In this session, we are going to go over an exercise that covers conditional statements in Visual Basic for applications. So let's look at what we have here. First off, we have a whole list of colors over here in this column. And the directions ask us to create a procedure that goes through that list and determine whether or not those colors are primary or not primary. Now, our primary colors are going to be red, yellow, and blue. Those are our three primary colors. After we're done with that, we want to create another procedure that counts the colors that are primary. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the code. Now, what I want you to keep in mind is that this is just one solution to this problem. It is not the only solution. So first thing I do is I declare my variables. In this case, I'm going to be using the string data type. So I'm going to step through my code. My variables have been declared. I assign a value of my worksheet. So in this case, I'm working in a worksheet called conditional exercise. I'm making sure that this workbook is activated. I make sure that the correct worksheet, the one I have listed here, is selected. Now I'm actually getting into the code that's going to solve our problem. So this is a loop, and what I want you to notice is that n from 2 to 21. If you look over here, we have row 2 to row 21. So it's going to correspond to our rows. So the first thing I have is a variable color. This is a string value. And I'm going to assign that value based on a value that's over here. So I have row 2, column 1, which is going to be this value right here, which is red. Now, the next thing I want to do is, since this is a string value, I'm going to go ahead and change all of the letters in that string value to uppercase. So currently we have uppercase R, lowercase e, lowercase d. Now they're all uppercase, and that's what this UCASE function does. There's also an LCASE, which changes everything to lowercase. Okay, so now we're in our conditional statements. The first one asks, is our color red? The answer is yes, so that we're going to assign that a primary value. And if you notice over here, it's going to print out. The next color we have is purple, and the question asks, is it red? No, so we go to an else if statement that asks, is it yellow? The answer is no, so it goes to another else if statement that asks if it's blue. The answer is going to be no, so it's going to go to an else statement, a default value, which is going to say not primary. And if you notice, it prints out over here, so purple is not primary. The next one's going to be yellow, which is not red. It is yellow, and it's going to print out over here as primary. So I'm going to go ahead and go through this list real quick. Okay, so what we've done is we've used conditional statements to answer whether or not the colors listed over here in this column are primary. The next thing we want to do is we want to count how many primary colors there are, which we want to put here in this box. Okay, so I've gone ahead and written a procedure for this as well. Again, I've declared my variables. Same thing as before, make sure I'm in this correct workbook and correct worksheet, and this time I'm starting at cell B2. I'm entering into a row, and if you notice, I'm starting with row 2 through 21, just like before. That corresponds to our rows. And I'm pulling the value from row 2, or whichever row we happen to be on in the loop, and column 2. So what I'm doing is I'm counting whether or not I have the word primary listed here. Now what I want you to notice is here, we are using an if statement, or an IIF. The first thing we have is a conditional statement. Right now we have the primary value equals primary. The question is that true or is that false? If it's true that the primary value equals primary, we'll return a value of 1. If it's false, then we'll return a value of 0. So the first thing we have in our if statement, or IIF statement, is the condition. The second thing we have is a return value if it's true, if the condition is true, and then finally we have a value if the conditional statement is false. So we have conditional statement, return true, return false. In this case, we have a primary value of primary, which does equal primary, and that's going to return a value of 1. Currently, our primary count is 0. Notice up here where we declared it as 0. So we have 0 plus a return value of 1, and that's going to give us 1. So we have 1. So let's go to the next one. The next value is not primary. So the question again is, this is not primary, means that we're going to return a value of 0. Our count is currently 1 because we just added to it. So it's still 1. All right, so we have a primary count value of 1. So now we have a value of primary. Our primary count value is 0. Our condition is true, so it should return a value of 1. Adding, notice we add right here to primary count, and that should come back to 2. Now, I'm not printing anything out because what I'm doing is I'm just changing this one value over and over and over again. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to print out at the end. So I'm going to run through the code quickly, but I'm going to put a line break here. And if you notice what I did is I picked a line of code and I went into the little gray area next to it and I clicked my mouse button. What that's going to do is that's going to run all of the code up until that point and it's going to stop. It will not execute this line of code. It's going to stop there. It's called a line break. So I'm going to hit our little play button up here. And if you notice, it stopped. So it ran through all the code. It ran through the entire loop. And now it's stopping at this value. And now we have a primary count of 10 because it already ran through the loop. So now what it's going to do is going to print out this value up here whenever I step through it by pressing F8. Notice how it printed out the value up here. Okay, so that's one of the ways that we get our primary count. Okay, what I'd like to go over now is what's referred to as a select case. And I'm going to go and tackle our first problem. So I'm going to clear these values out. I'm going to bring our code back up and I'm going to step through the code. Just like before, everything's standard. We have we're working through rows 2 through 21. We're assigning values. Now we're in our loop. So here's what I want you to notice. Our color value is red. Select case works like this. It takes a particular variable and it asks a question. It says, is it the case that your value, your color here equals red? And the answer in this case is yes. So we're going to assign it the value of primary, just like an else if statement or an if then statement. Then we go ahead and we print the value out here. Now the next one's going to be purple. So here we have the color equals purple. So it's asking, is it the case that it's red, that the value for color is red? The answer is no. It goes to the next case, and it asks, is it the case that the value for color is yellow? The answer is no. Again, is it the case that the value for the variable color is blue? And the answer is no. So we go here to a default value. Just like in our if-then statements, we have a case that is default or an else statement. So we assign it the value of not primary. And we go ahead and we print it out up here. One more time, we'll go through. In this case, we're going to use yellow. So the case is that our color value is yellow. So it's not red, it is yellow. We assign it the value of primary. And we continue on. So I'm going to go ahead and just step through this real quick. And if you watch, you'll see that it fills in the values just like we did for the if-then statements. Alright, so hopefully this exercise has given you a better understanding of conditional statements and functions and how to use them in your coding. So if you found this video useful, please click like and share with others. Thank you.